Watch Dr. Drew's new show at 9 on HLN. Weeknights on HLN.
And on the phone with me now is Mary Zahow. She is Rebecca's sister. Now, Mary, despite what we heard from police today, you still are firmly of the opinion that your sister did not harm herself. Can you tell us what your thoughts are?
Yes, I believe that my sister did not commit a suicide. My sister, pardon?
Do you have a theory about what did happen?
I believe that my sister was murdered.
And have you talked to your sister recently, or prior to this event? Had there been a conversation with her? And did she sound depressed? Did she ever have depression? Has she ever been prone to self-harm? Can you give us those sorts of details?
My sister never had a psychiatric problem, never been on psychiatric medications, and never have attempted suicide, let alone talk about harming herself.
Did you have any kinds of conversation with her in the days before this horrible thing happened? Was she in any sort of distress? Can you shine a light on that for us?
Actually, I spoke with her the day of Max's injury and the day after. The day of the injury, she called me to ask for my opinion what to do with the injury that my younger sister has sustained while they were cleaning up the chandelier pieces.
It's awful. How are you and the family doing? Are you guys okay?
We are trying to survive one day at a time.
Yeah, I understand. Now, Anne, police provided compelling evidence that, seemingly compelling evidence that this was a suicide. What evidence are you disputing?
Well, starting with that there's never been a suicide like this in history of a woman naked, binding her own hands behind her back and her feet and throwing herself over a balcony. Never. I'm sure, as you know, there's a few with men. They're few and far between, and those were cases where people tried it before and then bound themselves so they couldn't save themselves. So starting with the fact that it's a complete anomaly, to conclude it's a suicide when there's no evidence indeed that it is, I think is erroneous. But additionally, they didn't check prints of certain very close people to Becky at all. There's mixed DNA at the scene. The note that's on the wall on the door is not a suicide note, and it's not in her handwriting. That's what her family said. Also, there's no forensic psychiatrist that's been consulted in any way, no human factors experts and forensics criminologists. And what they recreated, you saw in the press conference, was simply what someone in Cirque du Soleil could do, a contortionist. And the fact of the matter is they didn't do one that would be reflective of an alternative theory, i.e. a homicide or assisted suicide. And there are many other issues. She was religious. She thought she would go to hell if she committed suicide. She was not depressed. She was doing well. She wasn't even blaming herself for Maxie's death. They have to exclude everything else if they're going to come to a suicide. And you know what? They only met with the family 2 days ago, and the family offered lots of information that should be investigated. But you know what? They closed the case. It's premature, and it's a rush to judgment.
And can you tell us, you mentioned a note on the wall. Can you tell us what was on that note?
It was something along the lines, I know they've whited it out, and I don't know why, because they've released everything else in the case, Dr. Drew, but it's something like this. She saved him, so he had to save her. And the family has seen it, and they said it is definitely not her handwriting.